In the tapestry of life, where every thread holds a story, America in black and white emerges as a haven for the voices echoing through the heart of our communities. In this podcast, we wade through the rivers of our collective experiences, celebrating the vibrant hues of change brought forth by the whispers of hope and the roars of action. It's more than just a conversation. It's a journey into the heart of our society, illuminated by the light of those daring to dream and do. Join us, and let your voice be the melody that guides us toward a dawn where every color finds its place in the masterpiece of our shared destiny. Together, let's paint a future brimming with the positives that dwell in our minds and the actions that shape our world.
Good evening, family. Welcome to another episode of America in Black and White, where we honor the voices shaping our communities, uplifting our people, and building the kind of legacy that outlives the moment. Tonight, we sit with a man whose work is rooted in service, strategy, and sincere commitment to progress. A man who has spent more than 2 decades using marketing, not just as a business tool, but as a vehicle for transformation. A man who has elevated organizations, empowered communities, and led with a heart for people rather than applause. Our guest has been recognized on national stages, including a nomination for Forbes' Top 50 CMOs, yet he remains grounded in the belief that true leadership is measured not by titles, but by impact. From strengthening the peak skills NAACP to mentoring emerging leaders, from building brands to building people, he has become a force for meaningful change. Tonight, we welcome Michael Stephenson, a strategist, a servant leader, a community builder, and a man whose story reminds us that when purpose and passion align, progress becomes inevitable. Let's get into it and let's welcome Michael Stephenson to the show.
Thank you.
Sir.
Thank you, Mr. King. That was a better introduction than I could have ever given myself. So I appreciate that, man.
Not a problem. Is there anything you'd like to say to the audience before we get into the show?
Listen, I'm blessed to be here. Mr. King has an amazing show. We had a great conversation beforehand, and honestly, it's just an honor to be here and to share my story with you guys. So I hope that you get something out of it, and contact me anytime. I'm always here to help.
So we're going to start out first where I want to get the audience the opportunity to get to learn and to know who you are, and so that once they understand who you are, we'll get more into the things that you're doing as far as work in the community. So can you tell us here in the beginning, who was Michael Stephenson before the leadership roles and recognition?
Who was Michael Stephenson before? I was a husband. I was a student. I am always will be a nerd. I love technology and all that fun stuff. But honestly, I'm deep rooted in service and the making sure that kids and young adults always have opportunities that maybe missed me or people that I knew when I was in the city.
So what was your upbringing like, and how did it shape your worldview?
So I actually, when I first grew up, I had a really good upbringing. I can't fault it. I had my mom, my dad, and then unfortunately, like most people in the 80s, they ended up in divorce. But even my stepmom was awesome, and everything. I was a honest to God brat. I was a spoiled brat when I was younger, man. I would play both sides. I would have whatever I wanted. And, I give kudos to my parents and I give kudos to my step parents that dealt with that, because now as a parent, I'm like, I would never in a million years let that slide. But besides that, I would say my father, unfortunately, passed when I was 13, and it completely changed my life. So I didn't see my half brother. I didn't see stepmom. I didn't see anybody really, and it felt like my family was coming just crumbling down. And my mom didn't handle it well either. So from that age, I wound up starting to work. So I worked in the school. I worked anywhere that I could to make a buck so that I could feed myself and help out my mom with the bills or whatever I could do. I just remember growing up and I had holes in my coat, and somebody hit me in the play yard, and then I saw the feathers fly out, and I was like, oh man, like this is real. You know, like you say, like you had the Nikes, but I had the Mikeys. It was like that. It was real. But I did wind up um, graduating from junior high school from a Catholic high school, and I thank my mom for putting me in there. And then I went to high school. I went to another Catholic school, and you know, in Catholic school, you don't have the ability to really act up, because you act up too much, they're going to kick you out. And I think that helped ground me in the way that I see things and I do things. But even with going to a Catholic high school, I went in the city, and we started off with 357 students as a freshman, and we wound up with 150 graduates, maybe, if that.
Wow.
And then out of that, maybe 25 went to college. Out of the 25 that went to college, maybe a handful that actually graduated. And I remember having a couple of our friends pass away. One of my friends, as soon as I went to college, actually got shot in the back of the head for mistaken identity. And I remember in high school, I was like, I don't want to be a statistic. I don't want to be that, right? Like there's so much more that can happen. And even though, you know, my mom wasn't doing well and I had a bunch of family issues and I was poorer than poor, you know, I learned how to hustle quick, but not illegally. You know, like I would work here, I would work there, I would do things for the church, I would do things for the community. I did things for the Chinese food store and the pizza shop that gave me free food, or at least let me write it off so like I can build a tab so that I could eat. And I'll never forget that. Honestly, without without my community, I would and be so I went to which is the college. Give me 2 seconds. And wound up, I appreciate it, right? Like I graduated, I proved that I could do what was expected of me, because everybody counted me out. And I refused to be counted out. I found a way to make sure that I got to do everything that I wanted to do. And I didn't let anybody tell me no. I did martial arts. I did some boxing. I did retreats. I did everything that I could to be a member of the community and to help people out. And to me, that was everything. So by the time that I graduated high school, when I went to college, I started doing events. I started doing all these different things, and I made a name for myself there. But then realized that, you know, you can't major in that. You know, you can't major in partying. You can't major in being in part of a student group. You can't major in any of that. But it was the experience that I felt was so important. It was impactful because I learned more from doing that stuff than from the classes. So I'm like, okay, you know, listen, I can make some connections and do what I need to do. I'm used to hustling and all that. And I remember my junior year, and I was like, you know what? I'm retiring from all this nonsense. Because it's nonsense, right? Like I don't need any of that nonsense. And then I started to focus on my education. But while I was there, you know, I met a brother by the name of Christopher King, and he had a heart like I had a heart. And Claudio Gomez and Fawad Oscar, all these people graduated with me from SUNY Albany, and we all had a heart for making sure that people always felt like they had a home, no matter where they were or where they came from, because we all came from nothing. Like we all had something that was stripped from us, and then we had to build back up. And that meant everything to me. And that's like that past history from college. That was before Berman Brand. That was before I wanted to be an entrepreneur. That was before I hit the corporate sector. But I just remember all those opportunities only happened because I had the support of my community. And if I didn't, and certain people, and I just remember there were certain people that helped me and wanted to be like secretive about it. They didn't want anybody to know that they helped somebody. They just wanted to do the right thing for the right reason. And I live my life by that purpose. It's just doing the right thing for the right reasons.
Mm. So, and just thinking back to that, because I want to think about something that you started out in answering the question, is that when you lost your father at 13 and noticing the resilience that you had to think of what other ways to actually not just help your mother, but to be good for yourself. What are some of the lessons that you got from that you can bring forward today to teach the people that you work around, that is the younger kids? What are some of the things that you can tell them about that experience to keep them strong and within themselves?
That's a good question. I would say everybody has a struggle. Everybody's going through something in life. And you have to understand that nobody's going to come in a cape and rescue you. You have to be your own advocate. You have to build yourself up, because understand that your parents may be going through their own struggles. Your parents may be working 24/7 to provide the food for you and may not have the capacity to give you any more than that. And at a certain age, I pray that doesn't happen to everybody, but the fact is that it does. And that a lot of minority families wind up going this route. And you have to be an advocate for yourself. And you have to realize that there are people out there that will do the right thing, but you can't count on that. You have to do the right thing for yourself. And you have to make sure that you can take care of what's important to you. And don't blame anybody. There's no shaming. There's no anything like that. Do what you need to do. Do not present yourself as something that you're not. And like, don't worry about what the person next to you is wearing. Worry about where you're wearing and where you're going. Have a goal and get there, no matter what. Be hungry for that.
Let's see, we got a quick comment here in the chat. Actually, we've got two. I'll put it on the screen. This first one says blessings. This is from Modre Paul. And the second one here is blessings, Michael Stephenson. So
I appreciate it.
yes, sir. So as we go forward here, can you tell us what early experiences sparked your interest in leadership?
I think I've always been a natural leader. So in the community, I would always lead the youth groups. Um, I would always find a way to make something happen where everybody else was like, "Oh, I don't know, I don't know." I was like, "Well, what's the worst that's going to happen? It's just not going to work. Let's just do it." And then lead people into whatever it was going to be. It could be trouble. It could be something fun. Like, who the heck knows? But it was just a matter of doing and getting people excited and getting people motivated and getting people around one central goal. Uh, and I saw that, you know, it wasn't something that I had to try to do. Like there's a lot of stuff that everybody wants to do, and they like, oh, I want to be a singer, but I can't sing. So I'm not even gonna go that route, right? Because it's just not gonna happen.
Right.
So things that happen naturally, if I was a natural singer, I'd be like, all right, let me develop that talent. I'm a natural leader. So I wanted to develop that talent, but for the longest, I never saw myself as a leader. I just saw myself as the guy that was trying to get by, just like everybody else. And I like to stay in the cut because everybody's always in your business otherwise, right? We talked about that before, Mr. King. I'm a very private I don't want a lot of people in my business. But what I learned, especially now being a parent, is sometimes you need to be in the forefront so that they can see what success looks like. They can see what failure looks like and how you respond to it. You know, it's not always about win, win, win. It's about how do you come back from a loss. You know, like, do I dwell on it? Am I crying every night? Am I drinking myself stupid? Like, and that's what I tell people is the the best thing that you could do for yourself is give yourself the grace to fail, and then learn from it, do something about it. Like, don't dwell on it. Don't like be eating Haagen-Dazs ice cream like nonstop and, oh, woe is me. But if you learn from it, you take it, like, there's going to be naysayers all over you. That's okay. Just stay focused on what you want to do. Stay focused on what you want to accomplish. And then people just naturally gravitate towards you. And then if you show them, like, hey, it's okay to fail, and you give them space to be themselves and not have to be artificial or fake, then you'll see, like, people naturally gravitate towards you and do what you need them to do.
So let's talk about leadership, because when you mentioned that you was just naturally leading, or you're a natural leader. Do you believe leadership is an innate quality or it's learned?
I think there's soft skills and hard skills, right? So there are soft skills that are natural to somebody. Like, I'm a people person, right? So that enables me to communicate like you do, Mr. King, with people from all over the world, right? I'm not an introvert. That's another, it just happens to be something that works for me. But I think that there are skills that need to be learned for an effective leader. So once you start to niche down in what you're leading, right? If you're part of a youth group, you need to know more about the people that are within the youth group, and you need to know more about the opportunities. You need to know more about the history in order to be an effective leader, right? So I think that it's a mixed bag.
How did your family influence your sense of responsibility and service?
So I think that it could, and I tell my kids this too, is it can go one or two ways. You can do as I say, not as I do, right? And I think that my parents had that philosophy a lot, like, don't do this. I'm going to tell you to do this, but don't do this, right? Okay. But then I had strong role models as well, like Mr. Long, that I sent you the information for. My dad was a powerhouse. My mom was a powerhouse when she was well. My stepmom was a powerhouse. My godmother was like, I had a lot of powerful people in my life. And then I had some that weren't so powerful, but they were powerful in their own right, in the sense of they did what I knew I didn't want to do.
Okay.
And that's equally as important, right? Like, that's a different type of model, but it's like, I know what I don't want to do because I see you doing it. Like, I don't want any parts of that nonsense, right? Because I see it and I see what you're living and I see how you're doing it, and I don't want any parts of that. I don't know if that answers.
So is that influence more so like being a better decision maker is how they influenced you to do things? Or was the influence just always critically think before any action or anything that you do?
I think it's the critical thinking. That was probably the biggest thing in the world that I learned from my family is, don't take anything for what it's worth. People come and go in your life. Grit, the fact that, if you get beat up, especially in martial arts, you get beat up a lot. You get beat up, you got to get back up, right? And my brothers instilled that in me profusely. But, that's what I learned from my family is, you have your ups, you have your downs, but time keeps going. Like, there's no time to, like, have a pity party. We went from having money to not having money to being, like, dead broke and almost homeless, right? To had to take that and still get an education, a private education, right? And move forward. There were no excuses that were acceptable. And, a lot of my family is military, so that's probably where that comes from. But, You know, when my dad died when I was 13, that wasn't fair, but that's life, right? Got to be able to move forward. And I had a lot of role models and people in my life that allowed me, um, that taught me that.
So, what challenges did you face growing up, and how did you overcome them?
Uh, well, so as you can tell, even though I'm black, I have a very non-ethnic accent, right? Like I grew up and people, I wasn't black enough for the black folk and I wasn't white enough for the white folk. And I just couldn't fit anywhere. That's how it felt. Like no matter what I did, like I didn't want baggy clothes. I went to a Catholic school. I'm used to dressing up in shirts and a tie. That's what I knew. I was the kid in college, Mr. King, that was in a suit.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I knew, right? But some people could consider that bougie. Other people think that you're trying too hard. That's just literally all I knew,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I had to overcome on both sides a level of stereotype. Like people would stereotype or try to put me in a box, and I just never fit in that box. And I didn't want to fit in the box, right? When I did and you would appreciate this, Mr. King, when I did the youth groups for the church, they wanted me to join the church. I said, nope. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in the people and I'm interested in the kids and I'm interested in trying to make sure that they're heard and that they're seen and that we're doing positive things for the community. That's my interest. I don't want to follow anybody's anything, you know, and I think that that's probably why I'm an entrepreneur is because I'm hard-headed and I don't want to follow anybody else's rules.
Mm-hmm. So when we just think about, again, as the work, not just as you're doing, but from your upbringing, what part of New York are you from, or were you
I'm from
born?
the Bronx.
From the Bronx?
I'm from the
And,
Bronx.
and being from the Bronx and just knowing the Bronx historically, I mean, you were able to be resilient enough to do a transformation. Tell us, what was it that made you do that transformation, and how were you able to do that to get to where you are right now?
Well, you see what's out in the world, right? You see your family members, you see people that are doing whatever they're doing, and you see the outcomes of it. So what I learned at an early age is kids ain't stupid because I wasn't stupid. I could see what's going on. I could see what you're doing, and I could see that that's not where I want to go.
Mhm.
And what I learned at an early age is just because you have an opinion doesn't mean that it's going to affect me.
Right, right.
And that's that's kind of how I've always been is if I want to do something or I think that it's going to be helpful, I'm going to do it. Whether you're with me, whether you're not, is irrelevant.
Mhm.
And that's I think that's a Bronx mentality too, where you're just like, you know what, I'm going to do it, and ain't nobody going to stop you, right?
Right.
And if you can make it in the Bronx, especially then, like I lived in a good area of the Bronx, and again, I went to Catholic school, so I'm not a hood or anything like that. But those are still the people that are around you.
Mhm.
You still got to be able to walk home at night. You still have to be able to make friends. You still have to be able to, again, I'm wearing suits. Everybody else is wearing Nikes and Jordans and all the rest of this stuff.
Mhm.
Yet I was well liked. I was well respected. Um, I didn't really, I had no problems with making friends. And I think it's just because I stayed true to who I was. And, I could, you know, be who I wanted to be in any situation. Like some people call it being a chameleon. And it's not necessarily being a chameleon. It's just that I know how to act in different scenarios, And that, yeah, I guess that is a chameleon, but it's not a bad trait to have, right?
Right. What is the one defining moment that changed the trajectory of your life?
My father passing.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
And I know that's still, as I go back and say, I know that had to be rough as a young man,
Yeah.
13 years old, and like the strength primarily it seems like it just left.
Yeah. I was devastated. Absolutely devastated. And even to this day, you know, I look at the pictures and I look at me and my dad, and then I look at the pictures of me and my sons, and I'm like, damn, you know. But
So, mhm.
go ahead.
No, go ahead and finish. I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say, but it makes me a better dad. It makes me more conscious of health. It makes me more conscious of being present. You know, I need to lose a couple of pounds. I understand that, and I'm working on it. But at the end of the day, like I could have who I was before my dad passed and who I was after are two completely different kids.
So, how did your environment shape your understanding of community?
Well, I grew up in the era where you can have block parties. You know what I mean? Everybody's out, everybody's cooking, you barbecuing, you having a good time, you got the music blasting, they cut off the street, everybody's having a good time. And that sense of community is lost now.
Yeah.
But I grew up in most like I guess I'm a late millennial, right? We grew up in in an era where we didn't have technology the way that it's so prevalent now, but we did have it later as teenagers, right? Like we grew up with the inception of all this technology, and I think that having the ability to or having the having the ability to live in a scenario where I could be in a community, a real community that was brought together where, you know, we had the barbecues, everybody went to church, everybody knows your business. You know the drug dealer on the corner, but you know what? He's in church the next day. You know the barber, right? It's the barber for everybody. He's out there, and you got the people selling mixtapes, and I seen it. I seen it. I seen the lifestyles. I seen it, you know, like in the Bronx. And if you grow up in the city anywhere, it's a melting pot. So you get to see all these different nationalities and all these languages and all these cultures coming in. And I think it makes you a more well-rounded person, in my opinion.
So, what values did your father, James, instill in you?
You looked up my dad's name. All right. Uh, he instilled he instilled a lot in me, but the most important thing was just being a people person, not a people pleaser, but a people person, like how to talk to people. And I remember right before he passed away, it was right when I was going through puberty and I was doing my scenario. And we went on a school trip and I bought this little necklace for this girl. And I said, Dad, do you think that she's gonna like this little necklace? And my dad said, Mike, who cares if that girl doesn't like your little necklace? If you want to give it to her and you think it's important, then that's what you do. But never try to conform to anybody else and not make yourself happy. So he always said, you know, just focus on what makes you happy, right? Don't give that up. And, you know, don't ruin anybody else's day either, right? So again, like being cordial, being happy, nobody cares about your problems, all these different things uh, I learned, and it wasn't just from my dad, but also my stepmom and my mom. And again, whether it's voluntary, involuntary, but through my core family and my aunt. My aunt was a big influence. Um, I learned all these lessons, and like a melting pot, it all came in and it comes to play, and it made me the man that I am today.
So, what is the greatest lesson you learned from failure?
Everybody fails. I'm not the only one.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, proximity is key. So my aunt tried to tell me when I was younger, she was like, oh, you know, you got all these friends, but your friends aren't really your friends. And as a kid, you don't understand that, right? You don't get it. But after college, it was like, oh, I had all these people that were always surrounding me. Where'd they go? Everybody disappeared
Yeah.
because I'm not the center of their life. They have a life. They are trying to do what they want to do in their life. And it does not include Michael Stephenson, right?
Right.
So That was probably the most valuable lesson that I learned. And it's still, I'm trying to teach my damn kids the same thing. You know, like just because they say that they're your friend, you know, friends come and go, right? You have to build a strong foundation of self, and then people will gravitate to you. They'll come in and out. But if you don't have that strong foundation of self, you're going to be lost.
So, how do you stay grounded while leading at a high level?
I always try to make sure I'm not the smartest person in the room.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I am the smartest person in the room, I'm in the wrong room. And I think having people like yourself, Mr. King, like you could pour into me. There's so much that you could teach me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just being open to that,
Mm-hmm.
right? And there's a lot of people that are not open to learning or accepting new ideas, and they become closed off. And I think that that's a major, major mistake, right? So for me, open communication, always being in a room where I'm not the smartest person, having a level of humility to know that I don't know everything. And every time that I think I know everything, there's something new to learn.
Yeah. So let's transition over to your work in mentorship and leadership development. Can you tell us, what does mentorship mean to you?
Helping somebody when nobody else will,
Mhm.
showing them a different perspective, listening to them and understanding where they are in life and helping them get to the next level of wherever they're trying to go. Having a dialogue and not talking at them.
Mhm. But and and just so when you think about mentorship, and again, we'll as we get further into this, I guess we'll talk a whole lot more about this. But as you're dealing, especially with the kids, these younger kids that you're dealing with your mentorship, um, what made you decide that you would actually give kids this opportunity to come under your tutelage for mentorship?
Because it's a different perspective and kids don't have that opportunity. You know what I mean? Like if you go into the Black community, everybody's a basketball player, a rapper. The things that they aspire to is so one dimensional,
Hmm.
and it's so much more that's out there. But if you don't know it, then you don't know it. Like you don't know that it exists, that it's possible for you to be something more. And it's in every nationality, to be honest with you. If you come from a small town, then all you know is the small town. If you're from the Bronx and your family never left the Bronx, then that's all you know. And there's so much more in the world. And I think sometimes, especially the way that I grew up, your parents' limiting beliefs can become your limiting beliefs. And my goal is, because if it wasn't for my community, my godmother, my godfather, all the people in my life, I would have been the kid that never left the Bronx. You know what I'm saying? But there were people outside of my direct family that saw something else in me, that wanted me to travel with them, that wanted me to experience different things. And I'm blessed because that stopped me from being a statistic, right? That stopped me from hanging around with the wrong people because I had other better things to do. So if kids have the opportunity to learn something different and somebody's actually listening to what they want to do, I want to be a scientist. Your parents say, I don't know no Black scientists, but I know that you can go and, get a job as a plumber. Why? There's Black scientists out there. There's Hispanic scientists out there. There's people that come from rural towns that can go into the city and be successful. Don't let your parents' limiting beliefs become yours. And that's a hard thing to say as a parent, but I am sticking to that statement because I don't know everything. My son wants to be a chef. I could barely cook, but we give him every opportunity imaginable to learn different recipes and meet with these different people and do these different things. The humility of understanding that I don't know everything, but I'm not going to limit my kids' ability to grow, right? Because that's what I preach for other kids. And I take that like so seriously because there's a lot of kids that have a lot of talent, but they're held back, not because they don't have the talent, but because they're not given the opportunity.
Right. How do you identify potential in others?
Their ability to listen.
Mm. Now, that's a quality and a trait that not everybody knows how to do. And as we're sitting here, we're chatting, see, a lot of people, they think probably that when you say listen, a lot of people don't understand what it is to listen or to hear. Because most times, in most case scenarios, people are just hearing. So it's doing this. But only when they're actually sitting there to take the time to listen and to ask the questions to understand and comprehend what they're hearing, are they really, really listening.
Mr.
So
King,
how do you identify that skill?
yeah, I've been given opportunities to speak in front of a lot of people in very small groups.
Mm-hmm.
And what I tell people is if my job is to affect one life, if there's a room of 100 kids, I would say 90% of them aren't paying attention. But I'm not doing this for the 90%. I'm doing it for the one kid that can resonate with my story and that understands that there's a better life. If I can make that one kid's life better, then I did my job. And as long as I have that mentality, I feel good about my day to day. But it's the listening. When you have that one kid or young adult that's listening, taking notes, asking questions, that's who I know. And that's why I'm like, listen, no worries. Come on. I may not have all the answers, but maybe I got somebody that's in my network that I can put you in front of.
Mm. What is your approach to developing young leaders?
I break them down. I break them down to build them back up because of everything that we just talked about, right? The kids now, they want to be on the internet or they want to see social media. They see things that, this person did this person did that. It didn't take him any time. I can make money in 2 days and I can make $1 million. I've heard it all. I had one kid come to me and say, listen, I want to do this, but you got to pay me. And I want $80,000 for the year. God bless you. Go about your business. I can't help you because you're not listening. The reason why you're not getting ahead is because you don't listen. And sometimes because of that rejection, it gives them that aha moment to say, okay, he was willing to help me. And then I blew the opportunity. And I'll give him another opportunity. But if I'm nice to the kids when they come in or the young adults when they come in, they're going to take advantage of it. They're going to see me as anyone else. But when I break it down to them and I say that's a time sucker. What are you doing that? Or, this is not going to get you where you need to be. Look at this. It's stupid, right? Just being completely honest and blunt with them. And then when they need me, I'm there for them, right? Just like that hard coach from basketball. They're going to be hard on you to build you up. They're not going to take your crap because I'm not your parent. I'm not your mom. I'm not your dad. I'm here to help you grow and be a better person. And if you don't like it, there's the door. And kids need that tough love now more than ever.
What is the most rewarding part of mentoring?
When they leave you and they exceed, there is nothing better than when the kid comes out, graduates or leaves you, and then they talk to you and they're like so excited and you see them build a family or they build a business, and like there's no greater feeling than seeing their success.
Wow, I know that's got to be a great accomplishment, especially when you've mentored that kid and you've had that part in that success. That's got to be wonderful.
What? It's the best feeling in the world. And they're like, oh, Mr. Stephenson, can you come here? Can you come to my wedding? This is your life. I'm proud of you. Do you? If you need me, I'm there. But otherwise, like, I'm nobody. I was just somebody that was there that helped you out in the moment and pointed you in the right direction.
So, what is the most challenging part of mentoring?
They don't listen. 90% don't listen. So it
Mhm.
becomes disheartening when you see the alternative, right? Like you put time into a kid or a young adult and they choose to go left instead of going right. It's still a choice, you know? And, being a parent makes it harder to accept. But sometimes that's part of growing up, right? Is like, here's the opportunity. You didn't take it. You decided to do your own way. And I hope that I've given them the skills at that point to say, okay, I failed. Let me get back up and try something different.
So, how do you mentor someone who doubts their own abilities?
I listen to them. There's always a reason why they're doubting their abilities. Somebody brought them down, or they tried something and it didn't work out. But if you listen and then you address their concerns, like you address it from their perspective instead of trying to address it from mine, like a drill sergeant,
Mhm.
then it becomes a dialogue where we're talking about a real scenario that they went through, their feelings about it, and then addressing that.
So, let me just ask you this, and this is like a little bit, this is in this realm, but it's also a little bit outside of this realm. Because, like, let's say some of the kids that you're mentoring, and let's just say that there's some of that negativity in that last question that we're talking about. Let's say that comes from home. Have you ever had the situation that you had to speak with some parents about the energy that's being generated around the kid?
Nope. And the reason for it is the parents will sometimes come to me and they'll be like, "Oh, you're working with little Johnny or whatever," uh, and we'll talk about life, right? As a parent, I refuse to tell another parent how to parent. It's not my job. I have no credentials to do so, and I have no right to do so.
Mhm.
What I do have, you know, again, going back to how we grew up, like the community raising the kids, right? Like having that block party. What I
Mhm.
am going to do is I'm going to make sure that your kid is okay. If he's in my presence or she is in my presence,
Mhm.
she's safe. I'm not going to
Mhm.
let anything bad happen to your kid. And this is what we do,
Mhm.
right? If the parent is okay with that, cool. If the parent is not, cool. They have every right to take their kid out,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
I'm not, we ain't going that route.
So, what leadership qualities do you believe are essential today?
Listening, patience, assertiveness, and the ability to meet people where they are, not where you want them to be.
Mhm. So, in your mentoring of youth, are these some of the things that you try to teach them? Not only how to use these, but what they mean.
Yeah, the goal is, some kids only learn, and I was one of them, by being in the scenario. Like you learn by doing, whether good or bad. You just got to do it.
Yeah.
Johnny hit his head on the freaking wall. Don't hit your head on the wall. Well, I'm gonna hit my head on the wall. Oh, yeah, hit your head on the wall. Ow, that hurt. No shit. You know, oh, sorry for cursing, but it's those scenarios where I try to give them room to make the mistake. I'm gonna tell you what I would do. I'm gonna tell you what you should do. But I'm going to let you do it your way, but in a safe environment where once you fail or you flop, I have the ice pack for you, right? And I say, all right, now you're ready to listen. No, yes. All right, let's try it again. All right, you bumped your head again, Johnny. Well, eventually you're going to learn not to hit your head on the wall.
Wow. How do you help people navigate fear or uncertainty?
I make them face it. So my business partner taught me that. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't even be in this position at all. You wouldn't even know me at all. But he kicked the crap out of me and kicked all that negative stuff and like gave me not gave me, but showed me that I had something in me and that I could do it and that it's okay to fail, but learn from it, right? And do better and listen. So I try to impart that on every young adult that comes across and just say, you know what? Here it is, blunt. I don't sugarcoat anything. I don't try to pretend like I am the Don and I never made a mistake. You know, I said, I have some people watching right now that I told them to watch so that they can learn what not to do when giving a presentation, right? Sometimes you learn what not to do by, watching someone. And I tell the kids the same thing. I'm like, not perfect. Just if you see me do something stupid, don't do it, right? You've identified that it's dumb. Like I want you to have that critical thinking piece, right? And that's how I develop it with them is like giving them the opportunities.
So, what is one piece of advice you give every mentee?
Be open to what your mentor is saying, right? You chose them for a mentor for some reason, right? You thought that they knew something that you wanted to know. Just because it's not the way that you think they should be doing it, they are doing it. So why not listen, right? Nobody's saying that you have to follow this individual blueprint, but have the decency to listen because somebody cares about you, somebody loves you, and they're trying to pour into you. So take that as an opportunity and learn.
How do you measure success in mentorship?
They're not where they were before they met me. They're in a better place than whatever that was.
So, with your mentees, the ones that have come and gone, and let's say the ones that are gone, um, when they are gone, I mean, like, the relationship that you have with them, is that still like one of the things that's still there because they still need to get that advice and still feel that comfort when establishing that? I mean, is that something that happens for you on the regular?
Well, you become Uncle Mike, right? You become, whatever it is, and the kids do come back. They have a question, or maybe they're going for a job interview and want to nail it, or maybe they need a recommendation, or maybe they're planning to get married. Um, Whatever the case may be, and some people that didn't go with me, they still come back and they're like, "Hey, Mike, blah 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 blah." Okay, it's just having an open door policy. I think it's the most important piece.
Let's talk a little bit about your entrepreneurship and marketing. What inspired your journey into marketing?
So I used to work for corporate in a managerial position, and I was really good with people, and I was really good with selling and marketing and thinking, and I love strategy. I love strategy. Love playing strategy games, anything strategy. Love it. Chess, you name it. And again, I did all that stuff for the university, but I knew I didn't want to deal with celebrities. I knew I didn't want to deal with that party life. But as I progressed and I learned what I did love about these different avenues, that's where marketing came into play. Um, and I did. I loved marketing. I loved doing moving businesses and feeling ways to promote it. And when I started this entrepreneurial journey and I left corporate, um, on a horrible note, but that's a whole nother story. Uh, but it did teach me that I would never work for corporate again. And it did give me the belief that people should come first. And I live by that belief. Uh, but for marketing itself, I tried everything when I first started. So I was like, oh, let me do social media. Social media is the big thing, right? This is like 12 or 13 years ago, I guess, at this point. Flopped. Bro, when I say flopped, I mean like flopped. And then because when you're first an entrepreneur, you're taking anything that comes in the door, right? So $50, $25, I don't care, just somebody give me a chance. And then you realize that without setting expectations or setting a foundation or making sure that it's worth the money, then you're lost. They're lost. It's a recipe for disaster. And it took a long time for me to learn because I was asking other entrepreneurs. I'm like, yo, I don't know this world. I want to learn it. And what I found is people are stingy with information. And I don't know why. Right? Like certain people are just real stingy with information. They think that they're helping you, they give you a chance, and then they start gossiping because you're not. And like I said, I wasn't good. I'm looking for somebody to show me what's better. Right? And everybody just kept gossiping, gossiping, gossiping. Again, those words, those negative words coming into play. But I wouldn't let it slow me down, like failure after failure after failure. And I had some good things that happened, but I was smart enough and humble enough to say, okay, this is what happened that was good. This is what was bad. This is what I need to improve on. This is what I have no business doing in the first place. Let me find someone else to do this, right? Mm-hmm. And it takes a long time to get that. But once I met my business partner, a lady by the name of Stephanie Bellafato, man, she is a blessing. She introduced me to my business partner. He owned a restaurant, was cutting up fish, bro. Nastiest thing in the world. Blood, guts all over him. He goes, what do you do? Oh, I do a little bit of this. Oh, so you're a hustler. And I thought about what he said, and I'm like, I guess so. He goes, all right, I like you. Come in. And it started the relationship from there. Right? But he showed me like all the different things. He was like, you're an idiot for doing this. This is a good idea. You should find somebody. We got to find somebody to do this. And we joined forces, and he showed me how to do real business into scale. And it's taken a long time, but like you said, like I was in Forbes, I've been in other things. I'm on this show with you, Mr. King, and it's all positive, but it all started from a mountain of failures.
So how has marketing changed over the past 20 years?
It changes every day, man. It changes every day. But like 20 years ago, Google wasn't really a big thing. You had Google, right? But you had other things. If you think about social media, what, 20, 30 years ago, you had MySpace and all the rest of those different programs. And then went from MySpace, Napster for music. Remember, you had the iPad minis or iPod minis for the music. Yo, all that's gone. CDs. Remember, we had disc. We had cassette tapes, right? Vinyl. All that's gone. Right? So all these different models, all these different companies, all these different infrastructures, malls are pretty much gone. Right? So the ability to shop, all these things have changed over the past 20, 30 years. And it creates a upheaval of tradition because you can't do you can do traditional marketing, but you have to accept that there are new ways of marketing to new audiences, right? With different buying styles and different habits. And that's what I find interesting. And that's why I like to strategize with people first, is because you as a business owner understand, Mr. King, sometimes people, especially when you first start, you take a ball of spaghetti, you throw it against the wall and you see what sticks. And you wind up losing your shirt, your hat, your blouse, your house. You lose everything. And when I come into contact with somebody like that, I'm like, listen, relax. I even give them the first 30 days. I'm like, let's look and see if this is a good fit for both parties, because sometimes it's not, And I think that in a nutshell sets me apart from a lot of competitors, because everybody's trying to push their product. And my marketing efforts are completely different. I'm not going to push my product. I'm not going to push what I do, because people do business with people that they know, like, and trust. So you need the opportunity to do that with your consumers. They need to know, like, and trust you before they're going to make that purchase.
So what makes a brand truly impactful?
One that's people focused, one that understands who they serve, one that is not just about a logo, one that you stand behind and it, especially as a solopreneur, like you are your brand. So from what you wear to how you talk to how you do your business, all that is part of your brand. And what makes a strong brand is someone that understands that, and a company that understands that.
So, how do you balance creativity with strategy?
I hire people that are creative and I stick with my analytical brain because I found that that's the best way of doing it. Even though like I have some artsy talent, it's not to the ability where I want it to be or where I need it to be as a company. So again, getting to the point where I can fire myself from different positions and hire people that are way better and more talented and more in the know than I am. Right? That's how I grow, and that's how I've grown over the years. But that's the name of the game. I leave the creative to creatives and the strategy to the strategists.
So, I want you to, if you could tell me a little bit of the secret sauce. How do those two actually mesh together? How do you make them come together to do its thing? Because I know when you're strategizing and you got this creativity, they both equally can do lots of things that's impactful. But how do you make them work together? You can give me a little bit of the sauce. Don't give me all your sauce.
It's all right. So I would say it's like being in the kitchen, right? I'm learning this from my business partner. So we used to have 3 partners, right? All very talented, all very impactful individuals. And then we went to 2 partners. And then we went from the 2 partners to 1 acting partner. So I'm the acting partner, and my other partner is a silent partner. And why we did that is because we were able to identify that when you have too many chefs in the kitchen, nothing ever gets done. So when we talk about strategy and we talk about creative and how does that come together, it's the chief is 1 chief. That's your strategist.
Okay.
The creative is going to do what the creative does, but then they're going to take the direction of the strategy. They're going to take the direction of the strategist, and then they come together and they come together, not separate. They come together and give 1 final product, but they have to follow 1 lead.
Okay.
And that's where it usually falls apart for a lot of businesses. Everybody, especially nonprofits, you got a board. Everybody's got an opinion. And what happens when everybody got an opinion? Nothing ever gets done.
Right.
Ever gets done, right? I would make a government joke, but I ain't even going there. Just too many chiefs, not enough Indians, right? Everybody knows what they know, and everybody thinks that they are an expert in everything. So when you solidify and you say, no. There needs to be 1 person in charge. And then we will surround that person with the right team to get things done. But that 1 person is going to be the yay or nay of it. And then everybody just has to accept it. If they can't, they don't need to be on the team, because that's what a team is. We all have our parts to play and we play them. Don't try to play somebody else's part. Don't do it, because I'm going to shut you down. Just don't do it. And because we do it that way, we've learned and we've grown, right? Our team members have been with us for at least a minimum of 3 years or more. Nobody wants to leave.
Oh, wow. That's wonderful. That's also strength and cohesiveness. What is the biggest misconception about marketing?
Marketing isn't sales and marketing isn't branding. You laugh because
so wait a minute. So I mean, you can, okay. I'm gonna let you elaborate on that.
Okay. So branding is the way you look, feel, and act, right? Branding is like your foundation. We're good with that, right? Then you have marketing. Marketing is the engine that gets people in the door, interested in your product, right? It's the strategy behind it, and the implementation of that strategy that matters. That's the marketing piece.
Okay.
Sales is closing a deal.
Mhm.
That's what sales is. Sales is saying, okay, you're interested in my product. Let me tell you more about it. Here's the dotted line. Here's the check. Just because you have a strong marketing effort, that means, Mr. King, I'm going to have 20 people ready in line to be on your show. But if you can only take 5 people, then all those marketing efforts are gone.
Mhm. Okay.
It's different, right? The branding didn't get you there. The branding was an asset that helped the marketing get you to the sale.
Mhm.
There are 3 different compartments. There are 3 different strategies. And as soon as people understand those are 3 different phases, they'll be in a better position because then they can focus on each one separately and not try to put it in a box.
Okay. See, now I understand that, but I want like one part that I think I missed, and maybe I'm misconstruing something. Is I want to know, how do you start the braiding? How do you braid it?
Well, our strategy is we phase it in. So we start with
Okay.
building the foundation, then
Mhm.
we build and develop the assets. So assets could be a website, assets could be an app, assets can be a SaaS program, it could be a number of different things. Then we do the marketing, right? But the marketing has to align with the business goals,
Okay.
right? So that's how we can do it. And then we create what's called KPIs, right? And we have that agreement with the business owner. Here are your key performance indicators. Let's track it every 30 days and let's give you a report on what we're doing, what's working, what's not working, and adjust, right? But within the key performance indicators, remember, Bimmer Brand is not selling product. We created the website, we created all these different assets for you to sell the product, but I have no control over the cost of your product, right? I have very little control over the name or how many products that you have in stock. I don't have any control over how you administer your service. These are the things that are going to sell your product or service, right?
Gotcha. Gotcha.
The marketing is the avenues that get people to say, oh, I'm really interested. And they come to the door like, hey, I got money. Your job is to say, I'll take your money, right? That's you as the business owner. That's your job. Say, hey, I'll take your money. Here it is. Here's the product. Here's the service, right?
Right.
But does that live up to the hype of everything else that we did? That's
Mhm.
on you. I can't control that.
Right. Okay. So, what does it mean to be nominated for Forbes Top 50 CMO?
Man, I was in that room and I was like, I don't even know why I'm here. There were so many like big names and people that were like, it was Microsoft. I made real good friends with this guy from, and I don't want to blow up his spot, but I made a couple of good friends that were way above my pay grade. And I met this lady, and I will blow up her spot, Diane Brady, who was the head lady. She was the head lady in charge. And I confided in her. I was like, I'm really intimidated being in this room. She was like, well, you shouldn't be because you got here. There's something about you, or somebody thought something good enough about you to be nominated for being here. So you should have some confidence. And she walked me through the room and introduced me to all these different people. Found out the person I was sitting next to was a big exec for a very large company. I had no clue. But again, being in the right rooms, having the opportunity, having a level of luck, but taking advantage of that luck, right? Just because it happened, what are the chances that it's going to happen again? Who the hell knows, right? But that was a good catalyst to get people's attention and to solidify my authority in the field.
So, how do you use marketing as a tool for community empowerment?
So for our company and what I administer for other companies, for all our clients, is I always have a community component in there, meaning there's always some hook that I have in there that's going to help out the community that they serve. Right. So every market strategy has some semblance of that we create. And then what we do internally is we have a no thank you policy. And what that is when somebody gives us a referral, they have two options, right? They can take the referral bonus, or I'll donate that referral bonus to whatever charity means most to them. And this continues to reciprocate giving back to the community. And the goal behind it is, and you'll never see it in any of my socials, or it better not be there, is somebody saying thank you or us shouting out a nonprofit or a person or a kid that we helped out. Absolutely not. And again, because when I was a kid, there were people that helped me that did it just because it was the right thing to do. And I want to live up to that and pay that forward. So anybody that works for me, anything that we do, I don't want any recognition. And our company better not be anywhere near any recognition to help out that person or that organization that really needed it.
Oh, wow. So, what is the most important skill for entrepreneurs today?
Resilience. Understand every day is not going to be a great day. You're not meant to be happy every single day, 24/7. You're not going to be a millionaire overnight. It's just not going to happen that way. But if you're resilient and you stay with it, then you will eventually succeed, because eventually you're going to get to the moment where you got it. You just have to stay with it.
So, how do you approach building a brand from the ground up?
Listen, I listen to the entrepreneur, right? So whatever they want to do, however they want to do it, I listen. And then from listening, we build a plan, right? So I have them, one of the people that work with us, his name is Christopher King, and he has a founders program. And we put them through that founders program, which helps you understand your why. It helps you to build your mission statement, helps you to build all these different things and understand it, right? Then we can go into the numbers so that you understand what you want to make. We work backwards. From there, we understand what's behind it, like what's the emotion behind it, like why are you doing this, and what credentials do you have to do this, what makes you different than everybody else. And then we have you try it out on a sample size. Once we really understand your business, then we build the brand around that. And then you have something that you can stand behind because it means something. It's not just a logo or something that you say, oh, that looks really cool. Nah, this means something to you.
So, what is the one marketing principle you live by?
Be adaptable.
Be adaptable.
Technology changes all the time, bro. You got to be adaptable. You got to be able to adapt to the scenario and always learning, always be learning, always be selling ABCs, always be learning.
So let's talk a little bit about your community work and advocacy. What does community leadership mean to you?
Helping out where I need to help out, right? Where I'm needed. Because sometimes you're not needed. Like sometimes people just go into leadership positions because it looks good on a resume. I'm not into that. I ain't got the time for that. So it's where I can do the most good in whatever position that organization needs me to be in. As long as I'm capable of doing that job, then I'll do it. And I think that that's real community leadership. As long as if you say you're going to do it, do it. Don't say you're going to do it and inflate because life happens.
Okay. How did you become involved with the Peak Skill NAACP?
The Peak Skill NAACP, I used to live in Peekskill, and while I was there, I met a gentleman by the name of Martin McDonald through the chamber, I believe, is how I met him. And he is still one of the people that I would consider my mentor. He hates when I say that. I don't even care, because he still is one of my mentors. And if you're listening, Martin, you're still one of my mentors. And he he had a real passion for this, man. Like he had a real passion for helping out the youth, both in Peekskill and in Ossining. And I was with it. I was all for it. And we started, not started, but we helped out the NAACP Youth Division, and then we wound up connecting with other NAACPs in the area, and then we wound up traveling up all over the place, like advocating for youth. And that's really how that started.
So, what strategies helped elevate the organization to national recognition? Your
The team.
organization, that is.
Teamwork, bro. Teamwork did everything. Just the fact that we had it, uh, again, everybody knowing their position. Like Martin was a really good leader. He put things into perspective. He put people in positions and made very clear expectations about what was to be expected, X, Y, and Z. And then having opportunities. So taking advantage of the different opportunities and having people that you can count on, right? True teamwork. That's what really made that work.
So, what are the biggest challenges facing communities today?
The lack of community. There is no community. There's there again, like in every community, you used to be able to get together with everyone in the community, have barbecues, do things, have block parties, whatever. Now there's so much information and so much at your fingertips that that sense of community is in your phone. Nobody wants to go out and communicate. Like in 10, 15 years, these kids won't be able to hold a conversation. They'll be texting and have a whole new freaking language. My kid is going through and teaching me things that I have no clue what the hell that meant. I'm like, oh, okay, that sounds good.
Well,
But that's my opinion.
but no, actually, I agree with you on that. But I just think that when it comes to that, I mean, social skills are not really a strong suit for this generation, this Gen Z generation. And I think we can all agree, or we can both agree here as we're having this conversation today, is that they'd rather talk to people via a phone and a text, where the text goes to the video call on the phone or on the computer or the tablet, whatever it is, however they do these things now. But in that whole thing, the actual socializing and actually meeting people out in places in public is kind of like not the thing for these kids, despite most of them saying that they're extrovert. But you can't be extrovert if you're not out here meeting people, socializing, and getting to know people personally. Because I think what's happening to just all of us primarily is that cell phone, I call it God's devil. Not God's devil, but it's the devil. And I call it the devil because people are not willing, that well, I'm gonna say everybody, but there are an enormous amount of people that are just not willing to socialize with people anymore. And this actually really came to fruition in what I saw from my vision is when COVID came. And so it's like to say, hey, yeah, let's meet here for lunch or meet here for coffee and let's discuss this. Well, can we just do the Zoom? And I'm like, well, I really don't be feeling that. Just so you know, I mean, because I love the fact of in doing this show here as we're growing, how we're doing this from the virtual perspective because it's still enlightening. But I think nothing takes the place of when, let's say, if I was able to actually bring you inside of a studio and you sit there and we have this conversation, because that conversation would be much more realistic than what we're doing now.
I completely agree. Completely agree. And that's as much as we deal with technology in our company, because we deal with a lot of tech, I still like traditional methods of marketing or talking or conversating or coming together. Like I hate having to sit and be on like 8 Zoom calls in a day. Like it's the worst thing in the world. Like, is it productive? Sure, it's productive. But is it boring? Is that why I gained weight? Absolutely. There's no motion. There's no nothing. You know? Like, I want to go outside, play basketball, or like have like we live in a nice little community. Why can't we have a barbecue? Oh, because Johnny doesn't like this person and nobody's ever met that neighbor or that neighbor, or we saw online that this was a
Well, I'll just tell you, I find that to be one of the truly one of the moments and the things that I don't think most of us that understand what that means from my era, because I know I'm much older than you, but I mean, I don't think I've ever gotten used to that. But when I've had, as you mentioned, all those Zoom calls, sometimes I have 5 of those a day, and it's like that in itself drains me so mentally because for each of those Zoom calls, it's like you have to switch personalities. You're doing code switching like crazy.
yeah.
And so that's the thing, and that's the mental strain, you know, at least for somebody like me. But I'm sure that younger people can do that like it's nothing. But I can't. I really don't like doing that. um,
It's a necessary evil at this point.
how do you build trust within a community?
Show up.
Okay.
Nobody's gonna trust you if you don't show up. Everybody has something to say, right? Especially on social media. Everybody's a warrior, everybody's an expert. But when you show up, that makes the difference. I'm physically here in this community. I'm physically here doing these things. Not everybody knows who I am, but the people that need to know who I am.
So, what role does communication play in community organizing?
Everything. Everything. I know, Mr. King, that you have been a part of community events where you're like, wow, this is so unorganized. This is nuts. Right. And it happens because it's too many chiefs and not enough Indians. Nobody's listening to the other person. Everybody's got their hand out and everybody's got an opinion.
Yeah, that is true. So let's talk. When we chatted and told you we do Black History 365, and I asked you who were the most influential people in your life and career. You told me Mr. Long, your father James Stephenson, Martin McFadden, and Christopher King. Can you tell us who is Mr. Long and how did he influence your leadership style?
Mr. Long was my dad's best friend, and he was an avid golfer, actually a fairly famous golfer. Um, and he just had like that swag, man. This guy was driving Cadillacs and like always even keeled and like physically fit and didn't take crap from anybody. Even my dad, like those two would get into fights and it was hysterical to watch. But like he just didn't take crap from anybody, right? And to me, like seeing him like a black man, like he's successful, he's not like boisterous, he's just you could tell he's in charge all the time. Anytime you met him, friendly as can be, but you knew he was in charge.
So, what impact did your father, James Stevenson, have on your character?
His swag, like his just ability to be in a room and brighten the room. And I give my ability to do that to him because I go in a room, I can make everybody smile. We're gonna have a good time. Boom, boom, boom. The worst the scenario is, the more calm I am, and it's because it's, it, I'm here. I'm alive. What are we complaining about? We do marketing. Nobody's gonna die from what we do. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not that serious. Everybody's gonna be okay. You know, life is gonna continue. But like that attitude I got from my dad.
So, how did Martin McFadden shape your understanding of community work?
So there's Martin McDonald and then there's Paul McFadden. So those two
Oh,
men, but they are both equally important. Uh, Martin, we talked about already, just the fact that this is a black man that stays on top of his community. He doesn't hate any color. He just wants our community to come together. And he developed programs. He was like, if this room isn't open for us, we're going to create a room that's specific to do what I feel is important. And I take that to the grave, right? That's how I operate. And it's based off of his model, like his mentorship. Paul McFadden is a brother that's out in Tampa, and he works hard, and he's just always in it, and he always has a positive demeanor, and he talks about alignment, and it's very clear of how that works. And I appreciate him for that. And Chris King and I went to college together, but his consistent role in trying to make sure that we stick together, that we hold each other accountable, that we don't forget to advocate for the youth because we know what it was when we were young and we want to do something better or give something better for others. Yeah, like that, his mentality there is second to none. So he doesn't know that I would consider him a mentor, but I do.
so how do these four men collectively shape your mission today?
Perspective, right? They give me the perspective or the hindsight of saying, okay, there's light at the end of the tunnel. These people went through 10 times worse things than I have. Even in history, they've gone through worse things, right? Mr. Long was doing golf in an area where predominantly white Americans were allowed to be there, but he was so good that they had to let him in. You know what I'm saying? Like that's powerful. Being in Ossining or Peekskill, those are predominantly, or the people in power are predominantly white. But Martin McDonald made his way anyway. Paul McFadden is just a force. He makes his way through whatever scenario comes and still has the capability of staying calm and talking about alignment. So put all
So,
those together, it keeps me calm, cool, and collective, able to handle most situations. That's what I think.
so what values did they instill that you now pass on to others?
It's not about me. It's about the people that I serve. Being a man of my word and focusing on doing what's right.
Well, let's talk about your legacy, your purpose, and your future for what you have instilled for us. What legacy do you hope to leave behind?
An old school legacy, man. Saying it's okay to pay it forward. It's okay to know that there's good people out there, that you don't have to judge somebody by their skin tone. Like talent is talent, man. And everybody has some talent. They just need the opportunity to shine. So I hope the legacy that I give is pay it forward, give people the opportunity to show you who they really are.
So, what projects or initiatives are you currently working on?
Oh, there's that's an open-ended question. So there's a lot. So there is a young lady out in Baltimore that is working with kids with autism and disabilities. So we're working on a program out there to advocate for those kids and get them the help that they need. There's another similar program that we're working on here in New York that is similar, but it's for baseball, getting kids uh, that have issues, autism or whatever, disabilities, the opportunity to play sports. Uh, there's another program that we have, the Black Diamonds, And I don't really do that much with them, but I will always uh, plug them because I was a board member. And that's getting kids to increase the graduation rates of Black and Hispanic men in high school and get them into college or BOCES or any other program like that. And then there's WHAM Academy that's out in DC where we advocate for mentorship for young men.
So, what message do you want people to take from your life's work?
It's never too late. Like, no matter where we are in life, you don't have to be what other people tell you that you have to be. You can be whatever you want to be, but understand it comes with sacrifices. There is no such thing as the easy way out. And if you stay focused and you stay grinding and you stay understanding, like, every day is a struggle, but you're going to struggle anyway, right? So why not struggle doing the things that mean something to you and understand that your actions can affect and impact somebody that you didn't even think. Just because you were in a room and you were happy, you may have made someone else's day. So stay humble, stay kind, and don't judge.
So, final question. What does the next chapter of Michael Stephenson look like?
Man, I'm going to be out on the beach somewhere. I want to live, get my wife a island somewhere and let her chill out and be happy and have my kids be the best versions of themselves and make sure I support them in their endeavors, paying it forward to the next generation. You know, I would love to sell Brim and sell all the different things that we're doing and focus on building up my kids and what they want to do. And then other kids in the community, I would love to do something like that.
So, in closing tonight, what are some words of wisdom and encouragement that you have for our audience? Tell them how to connect with you via social media. Have them go to your website. What are some of those good things?
So our logo for the company for Brim and Brand is a phoenix. And the reason why we have the phoenix is because we've all been there. We've all been beaten to the ground. We've all been lied to, cheated, you name it. We've all been there in one way, shape, or form. But the phoenix, what happens when the phoenix dies? What happens when the phoenix gets beat up? It rises. And it's never too late to rise again. It's never too late to start over. You can always do it, and you can just have to have the faith in yourself to do so. And if you look me up, you can look up at brimxbrand.com. That's our website. You can look up our handle on Instagram at brimxbrand or on Facebook. And you can look me up, Mike Stephenson, on LinkedIn. The goal is we all rise together or we all die together. I'd rather rise.
Well, before I do my closing monologue, what I want to say to you is I appreciate you taking the time to be here. This is a great show. And definitely, I hope that people in the various communities got the messaging, of what it is to be about teamwork, how to build together, but also how to stay resilient. And I definitely appreciate that because your story definitely preaches resilience.
Thank you.
So, in this closing monologue, tonight we were reminded that leadership is not about spotlight, it's about service. Michael Stephenson embodies what it means to build, uplift, and empower with intention. His journey shows us that when you commit to elevating others, your impact becomes generational. From marketing to mentorship, from boardrooms to community rooms, Michael's work reflects a simple truth. Progress is a collective effort, and leadership is a responsibility, not a title. As we close this episode of America in Black and White, let us carry forward his message that meaningful change begins with people who care enough to act, to serve, and to lead with purpose. Thank you, Michael, for your dedication. Thank you, family, for joining us. And as always, stay informed, stay empowered, and stay committed to the work that you all do. I'm your host, Charles King, signing off until tomorrow, where we have another great episode of Final Word Friday. You all have a great early weekend, and we will see you tomorrow. Thank you again, Michael.
Appreciate the opportunity.